It is late, and you are here, and the day you carried all the way to this hour can be set down now on the floor beside you, where it will keep until morning. Tonight I want to tell you the oldest kind of story there is, a wonder tale, one of the very first that human hands ever chose to write down. It comes from the court of a king named Khufu, the king who raised the Great Pyramid at Giza, and it is a story that a king asked for on a long evening much like this one, when the sun was gone and the hall had gone quiet and no one wanted the night to feel empty. There's one small thing I ask, and only if these nights truly earn it. If lying in the dark with an old story has helped you rest before, you could tap the like or subscribe so the next night finds you without your having to go looking. It costs you nothing, and it is the only way I have of knowing this is worth the making. And when you go, if you leave a word behind, tell me the oldest thing you own, the object in your home that has seen more mornings than anything else you keep, and how it came to be yours. That is all of the asking. Lie back. Let the pillow take the whole weight of your head, and let your breath slow until the edges of the room begin to soften and blur. You are standing at the edge of a long torchlit hall in the king's house at Giza, a smooth wax tablet held flat against your chest, because tonight you are the one chosen to write down what is said. Beyond the tall doorway, the last red light is draining out of the desert, and the enormous pale shape of the pyramid is going slowly gray against a sky the color of a ripe plum. The floor under your bare feet is stone, and the stone is still faintly warm, the way stone holds the whole day's sun long after the sun is gone. Somewhere behind you, a servant is trimming the wicks of the lamps, one after another, and each small flame stands up straight in the windless air. The smell of the hall is lamp oil and river water, and the green smell of cut reeds laid down fresh across the thresholds. You can hear, very far off, the slow work of the river against its banks, a sound so old and so even that it is almost the same as silence. You settle the tablet against your chest, and you wait, and the night comes down over the great house like a hand laid gently over a lamp. The sun is gone now behind the Great Pyramid at Giza, and the house begins to cool from the roof down. You have felt this happen every evening of your life, and you feel it again tonight, the way a thick wall gives its heat back slowly after dark, so that the high parts of the hall lose their warmth first and the floor keeps its warmth longest. The air near the ceiling turns cool and blue. The air near your feet stays soft and warm a while more. Between the two, the lamps burn low and yellow, and the room settles into itself the way a person settles into a chair. You stand where you were told to stand, at the edge of the light, and you watch the king. He is a large, still man, and tonight he cannot seem to be still. He sits, and then he does not want to be sitting, and he rises and walks the length of the hall and comes back. He is a man who has everything a man can have, and nowhere at all he needs to be. He has eaten. The dishes have been carried away. The lamps are lit and trimmed, and there is nothing left in the whole evening that requires him, and this, you understand, is the hardest hour for a king. A poor man at the end of a long day falls into sleep, like a stone into water. A king has servants enough that nothing tires him, and so the night lies ahead of him wide and empty, and he must find some way to cross it. You know his face well by now, though you would never say so. You have watched it across many such evenings. It is the face of a man who built a mountain. Out beyond the doorway that mountain stands even now, the pyramid he raised, block upon block, higher than anything human hands had ever piled before. In the daylight you have seen the white stone of it burn so bright you had to look away. Now it is only a darker shape against a dark sky, but you can feel it out there, the great weight of it, the way you can feel a person standing behind you in a room. The king built that. And still, tonight, he does not know what to do with one quiet evening. You think, sometimes, about how strange it is to serve a man like this. All day long, the king is the busiest person in the land. People wait on him from morning to dark. His officials bring him the counting of the harvest and the measuring of the flood, and the whole country turns on what he decides, the way a great wheel turns on one small pin. And then the sun goes down, and the officials fold away their sheets, and the great wheel stops for the night. The king is left alone with the same hour that comes to every person alive, rich or poor, the last hour before sleep, when there is nothing left to do but wait for the dark to take you. In that 1 hour, the king is no greater than you are. Perhaps that is why he cannot rest in it. His household gathers to him without being called. This is what happens when the light goes low. The sons come first, several of them, grown men with their own houses and their own concerns, and they draw their seeds in toward the lambs the way people always draw in toward a fire, even a small one, even on a warm night. Then the others come, the ones who keep close to the king, the trusted men, the old companions. They arrange themselves in the pool of yellow light and leave the cool, dark edges of the hall to the servants and to you. You press yourself a little further back against your cool pillar so as not to be in the way, and you make yourself small, and you make yourself ready. The great house is quiet all around you now, quiet in the particular way of a large place at night, which is not silence but the sum of many small sounds. A door closes somewhere far off. A dog barks once out in the servants' quarters, and then thinks better of it. The lamps breathe very softly as they burn. Beyond the walls, the desert has gone cold, the way it always does, the moment the sun lets go of it, and you know that if you stepped outside now, the air would carry that clean, sharp chill the day never once hints at. But you are not outside. You are here, in the warm heart of the house, in the one lit room, and that is a good place to be on a long night, and you know it, and you are grateful for it in a plain and quiet way. For a while no one speaks. The lamps tick faintly as the oil moves in them. A moth comes in from the dark, finds a flame, thinks better of it, and wanders off again into the shadows over the doorway. The king looks at his hands. The sons look at the king, and you begin to think that perhaps nothing will happen tonight at all, that the king will simply sit in his tiredness until it is late enough to go to bed without shame, and that you will have carried your tablet here for nothing. Then the king speaks, and his voice is low and a little weary, the voice of a man asking for a cup of water rather than a marvel. He says he is tired of the quiet. He says the evening is too long and too empty, and that a full stomach and a warm room are not enough to fill it. What he wants, he says, is a story, not a report, not the doings of the day, not the counting of grain or the measuring of fields. He wants a wonder. He wants one of the old tales, a true account of the marvels that were done in the time of the wise men who came before, the ones who could work with the world in ways that no one living quite can anymore. Tell me, he says, of the marvels of the men of old. Let one of you carry the night for me. You feel the whole hall change at that. It is a small change, the kind you would miss if you were not paid to notice such things, but it is real. The sons sit up a little. The old companions lean in. Everyone in the room has stories in them. Everyone has heard the tales their grandmothers told, and now the king has opened a door and is waiting to see who will walk through it first. The tiredness does not leave the king's face, but something else joins it there, a kind of hopefulness, the plain hope of a person who wants, more than anything, to be told a story before sleep. You wet the point of your reed. You lay the wax tablet flat across your knee where the lamplight can reach it. This is your whole purpose tonight, to catch the words as they fall so that nothing said in this warm room is lost to the dark outside it. You have caught the words of treaties and of accounts and of judgments. You have never before been asked to catch a wonder. Your hand is steady, but only just. Outside, the night has settled fully now, and the last gray has gone out of the western sky, and the great pyramid has become one shape with the dark around it. Inside, the hall has drawn itself down to this one warm circle of light, the king at its center, the sons around him, the old companions at the edges, and you beyond them all in the cool shadow with your reed and your wax. A little wind moves in the doorway, and the flames all lean the same way at once and then stand straight again. The house waits. You wait. And the moment feels older than the king and older than the pyramid both, the plain human moment of a room full of people gathered close to a light, wanting to be told a story before the dark. The sons look at one another across the low light, the way brothers do, each waiting to see if another will go first, each half wanting to and half not. The lamps burn. The night presses gently at the doorway. And into that soft waiting quiet, the eldest of them draws a breath and shifts his seat toward his father and begins. The eldest son speaks slowly, the way a man speaks when he wants the room to lean toward him, and the room leans. You bend over your tablet. His tale, he says, is not of this reign, nor of the reign before it, but of a time so far back that only the wise men still keep the name of the king who ruled it, a king who lived and died long before Khufu was ever thought of. That is how these tales always begin, with a step backward into the dark. A king so old his very name has gone soft with distance. It is a comfortable way to begin. It sets the wonder safely far away, where it cannot trouble anyone in the room, and where it is free to be as strange as it likes. You have heard tales like this before, at the knees of the women who raised you, in the long evenings of your own childhood, and you know their shape the way you know the shape of your own hand. They begin far off. They move slowly. They give you one impossible thing, and ask you to believe only that, and nothing more. And they are told in a calm and level voice, never a frightened one, because the teller already knows that everything will come right, or right enough, by the end. The eldest son has that voice tonight. He is in no hurry. He lets the silences sit. He knows, as every good teller knows, that half of a story lives in the waiting between its words. In that far reign, the son says, there lived a man of the temple, a reader of the sacred writings, a quiet and learned man who kept his own house and his own wife and troubled no one. He was the kind of man who knew things. Not the loud things a soldier knows, but the still things, the words that are only written and never shouted, the words that are said once, carefully, over water, and then not said again. And this quiet man had a trouble in his own house, the oldest trouble there is, for his wife had turned her heart toward another man while he was away at his work in the temple. You do not lift your eyes from the wax, but you feel the hall settle deeper as the sun lays the trouble out, plainly, without heat. There is no shouting in the tale. That is the strange gentleness of these old stories, you think. A thing that would tear an ordinary house apart is set down here as calmly as a stone laid in a wall, because the tale is not really about the trouble at all. The trouble is only the door. The wonder is what waits on the other side of it. For the wronged man does not rage. He does not strike, and he does not weep. He is a patient man, patient in the deep way that only the very learned can be, and instead of anger he reaches for his craft. He takes wax, the son says, ordinary wax, the same soft yellow wax that seals a jar or stops a crack, and with his hands he shapes from it a small thing, a little crocodile, no longer than a man's forearm, a toy such as a child might be given. He works it carefully, the ridged back, the short legs, the long jaw, and when it is finished he holds it in his 2 hands and speaks over it, not loudly. A few words only, the words he knows and no one else does, the words that are written and not shouted. Then he gives the little wax thing to a servant he trusts, with a plain instruction. When the other man, the one who has come into his house, goes down to the garden pool to bathe in the cool of the day, as such a man will, then the servant is to drop the small wax crocodile into the water behind him, quietly, and say nothing, and step away. You are writing quickly now, because the sun has begun to speak more quickly, and around you the hall has gone very still. Everyone can see it. Everyone in the warm room can see the garden in their minds, the still green pool at the day's end, the tall reeds, the man wading in to wash away the heat, and behind him, unseen, the small hand of a servant, and the little yellow toy turning as it falls, and the soft closing of the water over it. And here is the wonder, the son says, and here is the whole reason the tale is told. The moment the little wax crocodile touches the water, it is a toy no longer. It grows. It takes on weight and length and breadth. The made thing becomes a living thing, there in the pool, in the space of a heartbeat, as long now as a grown man and heavy with life, and it does what such a creature does. The sun does not linger cruelly on this part. That is not the manner of the tale, and it is not his manner either. He passes over it lightly, almost kindly, the way you would pass over the sad part of a story told to a child at bedtime. The pool closes. The garden is quiet again. You keep your eyes down and your reed moving, and you are glad of the work because the work gives your hands something to do while the picture settles in your mind. You do not think the sun means the tale to be a cruel one, and no one in the room takes it so. It is the way of these old stories to hold a hard thing lightly, to name it once and pass on, the way a person walking a familiar road at night steps over a low stone without breaking stride. The wonder is what matters. The wrong that opened the door is only the door. And already the son has left the door behind him and gone on to the thing he truly came to tell, which is the water and what the water did. The marvel, the son says, and here he slows once more, is not the ending. Endings are common. Any tale can end. The marvel is the middle, the thing that happened in the water. The fact that a shape pressed out of soft wax by a man's own thumbs could be given breath at all, could cross from being a made thing to being a living one, on the strength of a few quiet words. That is the wonder that was done in the time of the men of old. That a man who knew the right words could reach into the world and change what a thing was. And then, the song says, the wronged man goes down to the pool himself in the calm of the following morning. He speaks a single word, and the great living thing in the water shrinks and stills and lightens all at once until he can bend and lift it out of the pool with one hand, a small toy again, a harmless crocodile of yellow wax, cool and dripping in his palm, as though it had never been anything more. He turns it over once, this thing that had held a life for the length of a night, and then he carries it back inside, and the tale is done. The hall lets out its held breath. You lift your reed from the wax. You realize your own shoulders had crept up toward your ears, and you let them down. Across the light, the king is nodding slowly, pleased, turning the little tale over in his mind, the way the magician turned the wax thing in his hand. It is a good story. It is exactly the kind of story he asked for, a true marvel of the old time, safely far away, quiet at its heart. But one wonder on a long night is never enough, and you can see, before he even speaks, that he is going to ask for another. A man given one honey cake does not stop wanting sweetness. He thanks his eldest son, and then he turns, still nodding, to the others and asks who will speak next. A second son takes up the telling, and you dip your reed again. This one does not reach so far back into the dark. His tale, he says, belongs to a reign the household still remembers with warmth, the reign of Sneferu, the father of the very house you sit in tonight, a good king, a builder, a man spoken of kindly around these lamps long after his death. There is a small softening in the room at the name. Sneferu is not a stranger from the far dark like the king in the first tale. Sneferu is nearly family. To tell a wonder about him is to tell a wonder about a grandfather, and everyone leans in a little more gladly for it. The tale, the son says, is a small one, and he says this almost as an apology, though you can already tell he does not mean it as one. Not every wonder needs a garden pool and a life given and taken. Some wonders are only about a lost thing found again, and a bored afternoon set right. And those, he says, are worth telling too, on a long night to a tired king. It happened like this. Snefru, the old king, was restless one afternoon, in much the way the king is restless tonight. He had walked through every room of his house. He had looked into every matter that wanted looking into. And still the afternoon stretched ahead of him, hot and slow and empty, with nothing in it that needed a king. So he called for his chief reader of the sacred writings, his wisest man, the one he kept always near him, and he asked him plainly how a king might pass such an afternoon. "Is there nothing," he asked, "that will make this heavy hour go lightly?" And the wise man thought, and then he gave the king a strange and lovely piece of advice. "Have a boat made ready on the pleasure lake," he said, "and let it be rowed by the young women of the palace, and go out upon the water, and do nothing at all but watch. Watch the light move on the lake. Watch the banks slide by. Let the afternoon carry you the way the water carries the boat. There is no marvel in this part of the tale, and the sun knows it, and he lets it be plain and gentle, because he knows that a plain and gentle thing is exactly what a tired listener wants to hear. And you, bent over your tablet in the shadow of your pillar, find that you want to hear it too. There is a kind of tiredness that wants excitement to chase it off, and there is a deeper kind that wants only calm, and the whole house has passed over into the second kind now. The little points of lamplight, the low voices, the story of a warm afternoon on still water, told on a cool night in a quiet hall. It asks nothing of you. You need not fear for anyone. You need only follow the boat out onto the lake and let it carry you, the way the king in the tale lets the boat carry him, with your eyes half closed and the whole weight of the day set down at last. So it was done. You can see it as the sun describes it, and around you the whole hall can see it too, the wide still lake at the edge of the king's grounds, the flat green water holding the whole afternoon sky. A light boat is brought. Into it step the young women of the house, and they take up the oars, and the oars, the sun says, are not ordinary oars. They are made for beauty, not for work, carved of dark ebony and bright with gold, so that when they rise and dip, they throw little points of light across the water. And the young women sing as they row, an easy song, a song for a slow afternoon, and the old king lies back among his cushions in the middle of the boat and closes his eyes and lets the sound and the light and the slow rocking of the water fold the empty hour away. For a while, the tale says, the king is happy, in the plain way a person is happy when there's nothing at all that they must do. And then the singing stops. It stops all at once, in the middle of a line, and the boat slows and turns crooked in the water, and the king opens his eyes. One of the young women at the oars has gone still. Her hand has flown to her throat, to her hair, to the place where a moment ago there hung a pendant, a small charm of new green stone, a fish worked in turquoise that she wore and loved. And now it is gone. As she leaned to her oar, it slipped its knot and fell, and she saw the green flash of it go down through the water and vanish, and the seeing of it has taken all the song out of her. The king is kind. The son is careful to say. He does not scold her. He asks her what is wrong, and she tells him, and he says easily that it is no matter, that she shall have another stone, a finer one, in its place. But the young woman does not want another stone. She wants her own, the one that was hers, the green fish that went down into the dark water, and she says so plainly, the way a person says the true thing when they are too sad to be polite. I do not want one like it, she says. I want the one that is mine. And the old king, who could have laughed or grown tired of the fuss, does neither. He hears her, and he sends again for his wisest man, the chief reader of the writings, the same man who set them all out upon the water in the first place, and he tells him the whole small trouble, the stone, the water, the young woman who will not be comforted with another. And he asks, half in hope and half in weariness, whether anything at all can be done. You lean over your tablet. You already know, the way the whole hall knows, that something can. That is why the tale is told. The wise man comes to the water's edge, and he looks out at the flat green lake where the boat sits stilled, and he speaks. A few words only, as in the first tale, the quiet, written words. And the water hears him. For the lake, the son says, and here his voice drops so that you have to still your own breathing to catch it. The lake folds. One half of the water lifts and turns and lays itself over upon the other half, gently, the whole shining sheet of it doubling back the way you would fold a cloth in two to put it away. Where there had been an even lake, there is now water piled upon water on one side, and on the other side, laid bare to the afternoon light, the clean, wet floor of the lake, the mud and the shards and the small stones that have lain in the dark under the water for as long as there has been a lake at all. And there, on the bared floor, resting on a broken piece of old pot, as though it had been set down on a shelf for safekeeping, is the little green fish of turquoise, waiting to be picked up. The wise man walks out onto the dry lake bed, the folded water standing quiet and high beside him, and he bends, and he lifts the pendant, and he carries it back and puts it into the hand of the young woman who lost it. And then he speaks once more, and the water unfolds, and lays itself back down flat and even and whole, and closes over the lake bed as though it had never been opened, and the afternoon is exactly as it was before, except that a lost thing has been found. The song starts again. The boat straightens. The king lies back among his cushions, well pleased, and lets the slow hour carry him once more, and the small trouble is over, and nothing has been broken, and nothing has been lost, and that, the son says, is the end of it. A calm returned. A green stone back on its knot at a young woman's throat. A folded lake laid smooth. It is a small wonder, he says again, almost fondly, and you understand now that the smallness is the whole point of it, that on a long night, a small kindness done long ago can settle over a room as warmly as any greater marvel. You lift your reed. The wax has taken the whole tale. The king is smiling now, truly smiling, the tiredness in his face gone soft and far away, and you think that perhaps this is enough, that a folded lake and a found stone are a fine place to let the evening rest. But the lamps are still high, and the night is still young, and you can see the king's smile is not the smile of a man ready for sleep. It is the smile of a man who has remembered how much he loves to be told things, and who is about to ask for more. The second tale is done, and for a while no one speaks. The king lies back a little in his seat with the ease of a well-fed man who has been told 2 good stories, and the sons look pleased with themselves, and the old companions murmur softly to one another the way people do when a story has landed well. You rest your reed across the top of your tablet and let your hand uncramp. The lamps have burned down a finger's width since the evening began, and the pool of light they make has drawn in a little closer, so that the faces around the king are gold, and the edges of the hall are darker than before. It is later than it feels. It is always later than it feels on a night like this one. You think, in the quiet, that the well of these tales may be running dry. There are only so many wonders of the old time, after all, and the 2 that have been told tonight are among the finest of them, the wax that took a life and the lake that folded back. The king has asked for the marvels of the men of old, and the men of old are dead, every one of them, their names gone soft with distance, their wonders kept alive only in the mouths of grandmothers and in the careful hands of scribes like you. A tale of a dead magician is a safe and lovely thing. It asks nothing of anyone. It cannot walk in through the door. Perhaps you think the evening will simply wind down now, one small marvel at a time, until it is late enough to sleep. And then one of the sons, a younger one, who has been quiet all evening, leans forward into the light. He has the look of a man who has been holding something back, turning it over, deciding whether to say it. And he says, in a voice pitched carefully low, that there is no need to speak only of the old time. There is no need, he says, to reach so far back into the dark for a wonder. For a man lives even now, in these very days, under this very king, who can do such things with his own 2 hands. The hall goes still in a new way. You feel it in your own chest before you understand it. A dead magician is one thing. A living one is another thing entirely. You look up from your tablet, which you almost never do, and you find that everyone in the room has looked up too, toward the young son, who sits there in the lamplight with the weight of the whole room's attention on him and does not flinch from it. The king turns his large, slow head toward his son. He does not speak. He only waits, and the waiting is heavier than any question, and the son goes on. There is a man, he says, in a town some way off down the river, a long day's journey and more. And this man is old. Not old the way the companions here are old, with gray in the beard and a stiffness in the knees. Old past all reckoning. Old past what a life is supposed to hold. The son says, a number of years, a great impossible span of them, more years than any of you have ever heard laid against a single living person, and the number hangs in the warm air of the hall, and no one quite believes it, and no one quite dares to doubt it either. A man of that many years, the son says, and yet he eats like a young man, and he drinks like a young man, and he sleeps sound, and his eye is clear, and his hand is steady. Time, which comes for everyone, seems to have walked past this one man's door and left him be. You are writing again now, quickly, catching the words. You do not know if you believe them. It does not matter tonight whether you believe them. Your work is not to believe, but to keep, to lay the words down on the wax so that nothing said in this room is lost, and so you keep them, the great age, the clear eye, the steady hand. And this old man, the son says, knows things. He leans on the word the way the eldest son leaned on his silences. He knows how to do a thing that no one else living can do. He knows how to join what has been parted. He knows how to take a thing that has been broken in two, cleanly and finally broken, past all mending, and make it one thing again, whole and living, as though it had never been broken at all. Not with glue, the son says. Not with thread or splint or any tool a craftsman knows. With words. With the quiet written words, the same craft as in the old tales, only alive tonight, down the river, in a plain house in a small town, in the hands of a man who has somehow been allowed to grow older than anyone should. You watch the king as the son speaks, because watching the king is your habit and your trade, and you see the thing happen in him that you have not seen all evening. The tiredness lifts off his face. It does not fade slowly. It goes all at once, the way sleep goes from a person who hears their own name called in the dark. He sits forward. His hands, which have been lying idle on his knees since the meal was carried away, close and open ones. The long empty evening, the heavy hour a king cannot cross, is simply gone, burned off him like river mist off the water when the sun comes up. He is awake. He is more than awake. He wants this thing the way you have never seen him want anything across all these quiet nights of service. Bring him to me, the king says. He does not say it loudly. He says it the way a man says a thing he has already fully decided, so that there is nothing left in the saying but the plain shape of the order. Bring him to me. Tonight. Do not wait for the morning. Send down the river now, in the dark, and bring the old man here to my house, and bring him gently. Give him a good boat. Give him soft cushions and clean water and every comfort a man could want. Do not frighten him, and do not hurry him, and do not let him think for one moment that he has done any wrong, for he has done none. He is a wonder, and wonders are to be handled softly. Only bring him. I will not sleep until he is here. And so it begins, the small, ordinary bustle of a great house doing a king's will in the middle of the night. You watch it from your place against the pillar. A steward is called and given the order and goes out quickly with two others behind him. Somewhere beyond the walls you hear the sounds of it carrying on the still night air, a door, a voice, the creak of a gate, the soft complaint of someone woken who had thought his work was done for the day. Messengers are found and made ready. A boat is chosen, the best and the swiftest, and provisioned, and its crew roused and set to their oars. You cannot see any of this. You can only hear the edges of it, the way you hear a household waking around you before dawn, and picture the rest, The men going down through the dark to the water, the lamp lit at the boat's prow, the lines cast off, the first long pull of the oars against the black river. Inside the hall, the king settles back to wait, and it is a different kind of waiting than the tired waiting of the early evening. That was the waiting of a man with nothing to do. This is the waiting of a man who wants something and knows it is coming and must only hold still until it arrives. He has the servants trim the lamps again, so that the light stands up fresh and bright, and the pool of gold widens once more across the floor. He does not lie back. He sits, upright and patient and wide awake, his eyes on the tall, dark doorway at the end of the hall, as though the old man might come through it at any moment, though you all know it will be hours yet, the whole depth of the night and more, before any boat can go down and come back up again. The sons stay with him. No one suggests sleep. It would be a strange thing to suggest, with the king so plainly set on staying awake, and so the household arranges itself for a long wait, and the companions talk quietly, and the sons murmur, and you sit with your tablet in your lap, and you read at rest, and let the warm hour hold you. The night presses at the doorway. The lamps burn steady and high. And far off down the black river, though you cannot see it, a small boat is already moving, carrying toward this bright and waiting room the oldest man anyone has ever heard of, and the king does not once, all through that long dark, ask to be allowed to sleep. The night is at its deepest now. You know this without any window to show you, the way a person who has kept many night watches comes to know the hours by the feel of them. There is an hour, past the middle of the night and before the first thought of morning, when the whole world seems to hold its breath, when even the small, ceaseless sounds of a great house fall away to nothing, and the dark outside is not a lack of light, but a thing in itself, deep and soft and whole. That is the hour it is now. The king waits in his bride hall, and out beyond the walls, far down the river, a small boat is moving through that deep dark toward Giza, and you find that if you close your eyes you can go out to it and ride along. The river at this hour is black and warm and almost without any sound at all. The heat of the long day has gone up out of the land, but the water keeps its warmth the way stone keeps it, the way the floor beneath you kept the day's warmth long after the sun was gone. The boat slides upstream against the slow current, pointed south, pointed toward the king, and the water parts at its prow with a sound so soft it is hardly a sound, a low, even hush, the whisper of something heavy moving gently through something dark. The oars rise and dip, rise and dip. The men who pull them have found the long, easy rhythm that oarsmen find on a night like this, and they do not speak, and the only voice on the whole river is the small voice of the water against the wood. Along both banks the reeds stand up tall and still. There is no wind at this hour to move them. They make a black wall on either side of the water, taller than a man, and above them the sky opens out enormous and full of stars, more stars than a person who has only ever looked up from a lamplit courtyard would ever think to count. The river holds them. That is the thing you would see if you were truly out there on the water. You would see the stars twice, once overhead where they belong, and once below in the black river, laid out on its skin, sliding and shivering with each dip of the oars, and then settling again to stillness. A single lamp burns at the boat's prow, one small warm point of orange in all that cool starlight, and it leans its little glow forward onto the water, lighting a few arms' lengths of the way ahead and no more, so that the boat seems always to be moving into a room just barely lit, that opens before it and closes again behind. And in the middle of the boat, among soft cushions, lies the old man. He is not hurried. That is the first thing you understand about him, out there in the dark, though you have never seen his face and do not know his name. A man dragged from his bed in the deep of the night by messengers from the king might well be afraid. He might sit stiff and wakeful, turning over what he has done to be sent for, what the morning will bring, whether he will see his own house again. This old man does none of that. He lies back among the cushions the king's people have heaped for him, and he is at his ease, as much at his ease as a man in his own bed. Perhaps more. He has been given every comfort, exactly as the king ordered, clean water at his hand, and a warm cloth over his legs against the river chill, and he takes the comfort simply, the way a very old person takes such things, without fuss and without surprise, as though the world has been handing him small kindnesses for so many years now that one more is nothing to remark upon. He watches the sky. There is nothing else to do on a river at night, and he does the nothing beautifully. Above the boat, the mast stands up dark against the stars, and as the boat rocks and swings on the slow water, the mast seems to lean this way and that across the sky, and the whole field of stars seems to turn slowly about its tip, wheeling and settling, wheeling and settling. The old man lies and watches it turn. A man that old has seen the stars turn more times than he could ever count. He has watched them come up in their seasons and go down again more nights than most men live days. And still he watches, because it is worth watching, because the slow turning of the night sky over a quiet river is one of the few things in the world that is exactly as good the 10,000th time as it was the first. You ride along with him in your mind, and you feel the calm of him settle over you the way the calm of the second tale settled over the whole hall. He is being carried, in the dark, to stand before the most powerful man in all the land, to be asked to prove a wonder or be shown a liar, and he is as untroubled as a child being carried home asleep on a parent's shoulder. He does not fear the summons. Why would he fear it? He is what he is, and he can do what he can do, and whether he does it before a king or before no one at all changes nothing about the truth of him. There is a great restfulness in that, you think. To be so wholly what you are that even a king's midnight summons cannot ruffle you. You lie in your own place against a cool pillar, and you envy him it a little, that deep old calm, and you hope some small share of it might come to you as the years go by. The boat moves on. The reeds slide past, black and still. The lamp leans its small light forward over the water. And ahead, far ahead on the dark northern skyline, something begins to change. At first it is only a feeling, a thickening of the dark low down against the stars, a place where the sky seems heavier than the rest. Then, as the long, slow hours of the river carry the boat nearer, it takes on an edge, a shape, a great smooth triangle of deeper black rising up out of the flat land and blotting out the low stars behind it. It is the pyramid. It is the Great Pyramid at Giza, the mountain the king raised, growing out of the northern dark stone by unseen stone, from a smudge to a shadow to a shape to a mountain, larger and nearer, with every quiet stroke of the oars. You have seen it 1,000 times by daylight, close enough to touch, close enough to press your palm flat against its warm white stone. But you have never seen it like this, the way the old man is seeing it now, rising slowly out of the night at the end of a long, dark river, the first sign to a traveler that the king's house is near. It must look, from the water, like the edge of the world. It must look like the one still thing in a turning sky, the fixed dark point that all the wheeling stars go around. The old man watches it grow, you are sure. With the same untroubled patience he watched the stars, neither hurried by it nor afraid of it, only carried steadily toward it through the deep of the night, nearer and nearer, while far ahead in its shadow a hall full of lamplight waits, and a king sits upright and wide awake and does not sleep. You do not know how many hours pass. You must have drifted there against your cool pillar, because there is a stretch of the night you cannot account for, a soft dark gap in your memory of the evening, and then, all at once, there is a stir at the far end of the hall, and you are fully awake again, with your reed already in your hand. The old man has come. Word of it runs ahead of him through the household in a low, quick murmur, and the murmur reaches the king, who rises from his seat, which you have almost never seen him do for any man, and stands facing the tall doorway where the deepest dark of the night still hangs. And the old man comes in out of that dark, and the whole hall turns to look at him. He is exactly as old as the sun promised, and somehow more so. He comes slowly, helped along on either side, and every eye in the room goes to him and stays. You cannot stop looking either, and you are supposed to be looking at your tablet. The king has a soft, low seat brought and set close before his own, closer than any visitor is ever placed, and the old man is helped down onto it with great care, and he settles into the cushions with a small sound of comfort, and he looks about the bright hall and all the watching faces with a mild and unhurried eye, as if he has been coming to bright halls full of watching faces for a very long time and finds this one pleasant enough. The whole household leans toward him. You can feel the lean of the room, the way everybody in it has tilted a little forward toward the old man in his low seat, the sons and the companions and the servants at the dark edges and you against your pillar, all of you drawn the same way, the way reeds lean toward the river, or flames lean toward an open door. He's the most interesting thing that has come into this house in years, and everyone knows it, and no one troubles to hide it. The king does not waste the hour he has waited all night for. He speaks to the old man gently, with real courtesy, thanking him for coming so far in the dark and asking after his comfort. But under the courtesy there is the plain hunger you saw ignite in him earlier, and it is not long before he comes to the thing itself. He has heard, the king says, that the old man can do a certain wonder with his own hands. He has heard that the old man can join what has been parted, can make one thing again out of a thing broken finally in two? Will he, the king asks, show it? Here, tonight, in this hall, before these witnesses, with his own two hands, so that the king may see with his own eyes the thing he has been told. The old man inclines his head. He does not boast, and he does not hesitate. He simply agrees, the way a man agrees to a small favor, and asks that a bird be brought. There is a brief, soft flurry at the edges of the hall, servants going out into the dark toward the places where such things are kept, and then a bird is carried in. It is a goose, a plump white goose, held quiet and calm in a servant's two arms, its feathers very bright in the lamplight against the dark of the hall. It does not struggle. It turns its head on its long neck and looks at the room with one round eye and makes a low, soft sound and is still. The servant kneels and holds it out, and you find that your hand has stopped on the wax, and that you are holding your breath, and that everyone else is too. You will not set down here, on the tablet, or in your own memory, the doing of the next part. It is done cleanly and quickly and without cruelty, the way a farmer does a needful thing, and then it is over, and the goose is a goose, no longer but two still things laid apart on the stone floor of the hall. The head is carried to one side of the room and set down there. The body is carried to the other side, far off, the whole width of the bright floor between them. They lie apart on the cool stone in the lamplight, the small white head at one wall and the white body at the other, and between them lies the empty middle of the hall, and there is no thread in the world and no craft of any craftsman that could ever make them one thing again. The old man rises from his low seat. He does not hurry. He stands in the middle of the floor, halfway between the head and the body, an old, old man alone in the pool of light with the whole silent household watching, and he lifts his face and he begins to speak. You cannot hear the words. That is part of it you understand later. They are not meant to be heard. They are the quiet written words, the words that are said once, carefully, over a thing, and then not said again, and he speaks them low, so low that from your place against the pillar you catch only the shape of his voice and not one word of its meaning, a soft, even murmur that goes on and on in the stillness, like water moving somewhere far off. And on the floor, the two still things begin to move. You see it, and you do not believe it, and you keep on seeing it. The head, the small white head at the far wall, stirs and slides. It moves across the stone floor toward the middle of the hall, toward the body, of its own accord, with no hand upon it, drawn along as steadily as a boat drawn upstream. And from the other wall the body stirs and slides too, the whole white weight of it moving over the cool stone toward the head, the two of them crossing that wide empty floor slowly and surely through the lamplight, closing the great gap between them a little at a time, while the old man stands and murmurs his soft, unhearable words, and the whole household sits frozen and staring, and no one breathes at all. They meet in the middle of the floor. The head comes to the body, and the body comes to the head, and the two of them touch and rise, and there is a moment, a long, slow moment you will carry with you for the rest of your life, in which the goose is neither dead nor living, but somewhere in between, coming back together at the join, knitting, mending, becoming one whole thing again, where a moment before there had been two. And then the goose stands up. It stands up on the tiles on its own 2 feet, whole and white and unhurt, in the middle of the king's hall, in the deep of the night. It settles its feathers. It shakes itself, once, all over, the way a bird shakes off water, a small, ordinary, homely gesture that is somehow the most astonishing thing of all, and it turns its head on its long neck and looks about the bright room with one round, untroubled eye, exactly as it did when it was first carried in, as though nothing at all has happened to it, as though it has not just been carried across the floor in 2 pieces and made one again by an old man's murmured words. And then it walks. It walks a few plain steps across the stone, whole and calm and entirely alive. A goose like any goose, going nowhere in particular, and it makes again that same low, soft sound in its throat. The hall lets out its held breath. It comes all at once, a long, low sound from the whole room together, the sound of many people who have been holding their breath without knowing it and can breathe again now, and it fills the hall and dies away, and then there is a great and total quiet. No one speaks. No one moves. The old man lowers his face and stops his murmuring, and stands a moment longer in the middle of the floor, spent and mild, and then is helped back to his low seat. And on his high seat, the king, the man who raised a mountain of stone, the busiest and most powerful man in all the land, sits very still and says nothing at all, only watches the white goose walk unbothered across his floor, and you, bent over your tablet in the shadow of your pillar, find that you have written nothing, that your reed has hung above the wax this whole long while, and that your own 2 hands are not quite steady in the warm and holy quiet of the hall. The goose walks a slow circle across the stone floor, and no one takes their eyes from it, and for a long while the only sound in the whole bright hall is the small dry click of its feet on the tiles. The old man rests in his low seat, mild and spent. The king sits above him, upright, wide awake, and you can see the wonder still moving through him, the way a stone dropped into still water goes on, sending its rings outward long after the stone itself has sunk from sight. He is a man who has been given a thing he wanted very badly, and he has it now, and it has not made him calm. It has made him hungry for more. You know the look. You have watched this king for a long time from your place against the pillar, and you have learned to read him the way a farmer reads the river, and you can see that he is not finished. A lesser marvel would have satisfied a lesser man. He raised a mountain of stone out of the desert with his own will. He is not a man who stops at the edge of a thing when he might go over it. And so you are not truly surprised, though your stomach turns a little cold, when he leans forward toward the old man and asks the next question, the one that has been forming behind his eyes since the goose first stood up. "It is a bird tonight," the king says. "A goose. And you have made it whole again, and it walks, and it is well." He pauses. The pool of lamplight holds the 2 of them, the king above and the old man below, and the whole household holds its breath around them. But could you do the same, the king asks, for a man? The words settle into the quiet and lie there. There is, the king goes on, gently enough, a man held in this house, a prisoner, whose life is already forfeit, whose days are already counted and short. It would be a small thing, the king says, to bring that man out and to do to him what you have done to the bird, and to see whether your wonder holds as true on a person as it does on a goose. No one would grieve him. No one would come asking after him. He is a man the world has already set aside. And the king would give a very great deal, you can hear it under the soft words, to see with his own eyes a man taken apart and made one again and set walking whole across this floor. You have stopped writing. You are aware that you have stopped writing, and that it is your one task tonight not to stop, and still you cannot make your hand move. You are looking at the old man. The room has gone very quiet around the king's soft words. It is a different quiet than the held breath before the goose. That was the quiet of people waiting to be amazed. This is the quiet of people waiting to see how far a thing will go, and hoping, without quite saying it to themselves, that it will not go all the way. You can hear, in the hush, the small sounds the great house makes when everything in it has stilled, the settling of a beam somewhere above, the faint tick of an oil lamp, the whisper of your own breath. Every face in the lamplight has turned, without meaning to, toward the old stranger in the low seat, to see what he will say to a king who has just, gently and terribly, asked him to take a living person apart. The old man does not flinch, and he does not take long. That is the thing you remember most, afterward, when you turn this night over in the years to come. He does not draw back in horror, and he does not pretend to consider it. He answers the way a person answers who has already, long ago, decided the answer to this exact question, and needs only to say it aloud. He shakes his old head once, slowly, and he says, "No, not that." The word is soft. There is nothing sharp in it, no rebuke, no fear, none of the trembling a smaller man might feel telling a king that a thing cannot be done. He simply says it plainly, the way you would tell a child that the pool is too deep to wade, out of care and not out of anger. Not that, he says. Not to a man. It is not a permitted thing to do such a wonder to one of the people, to one of the noble flock of the god. You write the words down now. Your hand has come back to you, and you catch them, the flock of the god, and you understand as you set them into the wax that you have just written something that matters more than any of the marvels that came before it. The old man goes on, quietly, and the whole hall leans in to listen because his voice has dropped and softened, and everyone wants to hear. The birds and the beasts are one thing, he says. A goose is a goose. You may take a goose apart and put it back together, and no law of the god is broken, and no harm is done to the order of things. But a person is not a goose. A person belongs to the god, is counted among the god's own herd, is watched over and numbered and known. And a life once ended is not a thing to be reached back into and undone for the pleasure of seeing it done. Some doors, he says, And here he looks up at the king with his mild old eyes. Some doors are closed, and they are closed on purpose, and it is not for me to open them, and it would not be well for you to ask me to. You think, writing it down, that this is the oldest kind of wisdom there is, older even than the wonder that came before it. Anyone with the right words and a steady enough nerve might learn, in time, to mend a goose. It is a rarer and a harder thing to know where a wonder ought to stop. The old man has the greater craft, the one that says no. Whatever it is that has kept him alive so far past his season, it has not made him greedy. It has made him careful. He gives his marvels to the birds and the beasts with an open hand, and he keeps the one door shut, and he seems to carry no burden in the keeping of it, as though the line were drawn not by him at all but by the God, long ago, and he is only the man standing quietly beside it, pointing. The hall is very still. You wait, with everyone else, to see how the king will take it, because you have seen kings take a plain no very badly, and this is a king who does not often hear the word at all. But the king does not press him. That is the mercy folded into the middle of the night, and you feel the whole room feel it. The king sits with the refusal a moment, turning it, and then he inclines his own great head, slowly, the way one grants a thing rather than the way one is denied it, and he lets the question go. He does not order the prisoner brought out. He does not lean on the old man, or remind him whose house he sits in, or what a king may command. He accepts the closed door as a closed door. Perhaps, you think, watching him, a man who has built the largest thing that has ever been built comes to understand, better than most, that there are limits set into the world that even a king must build up against and not through. Or perhaps he is simply tired and moved and glad in some quiet way to have been told no by someone who was not afraid to tell him. Whatever it is, the danger passes. The cold that had come into your stomach goes out of it again. The prisoner in his cell, wherever he is in the sleeping house, will not be sent for tonight, and will die, when he dies, only the once, the way people are meant to. You did not expect, when the evening began, to be grateful for so small and so strange a thing. But you sit in the warm lamplight, with your reed in your hand, and you are grateful, and you notice that the night feels kinder for it, gentler, as though a hard edge you had not known has been quietly smoothed away. The old man settles back into his cushions, his one refusal made and done, no heavier for the making of it than he was before. The goose is carried softly away to wherever the geese are kept, whole and well and none the wiser. And the king sits above it all, thoughtful now, the hunger gone quieter in him, and you understand that the wonders are over, that whatever comes next in this long night will not be a thing done with the hands. The king has seen his marvel. He has asked his forbidden question and been gently turned away from it. And now, you sense, he's coming around at last to the thing he has truly wanted all along, the reason, perhaps, that a tired king let a long evening of tales carry him all the way down to this hour without once asking to sleep. The lambs have burned low. You notice it now, in the lull after the goose. the way you notice such things when the loud part of a night is over and the quiet part begins. The flames stand shorter in their dishes than they did, and the oil in them has sunk, and the pool of gold light on the floor has drawn in close and warm around the king and the old man, so that the two of them sit almost alone in it, and the rest of the great hall has gone soft and dim at the edges, the pillars fading up into a darkness you can no longer see the top of. It is the deep middle of the night made visible in a room. The household has stopped its stirring. The sons sit close and quiet, and you against your pillar are one more shape at the warm edge of the light, your tablet a pale square in your lap, your reed at rest. Into this hush the king begins to speak, and his voice is different now. All evening he has spoken as a king speaks, plainly from above, the voice of a man giving orders and hearing tales. Now he speaks more slowly and lower, and there is something almost careful in it, something you have not heard from him in all your years of service. He speaks like a man approaching a thing he has walked a long way toward and does not want to startle. He tells the old man that he has a question, not a marvel to be performed, not a bird to be brought and mended. A question, a thing he has wanted to know for a long time, he says, years now, longer than the old man has been in this hall, longer than the goose or the tails or this whole night. He has carried it, the king says, the way a man carries a small stone in his sandal on a long road, always there, never quite forgotten, worn smooth from the carrying. And he has never, until tonight, until this old man came up the dark river to him, met anyone he thought might be able to set it down. You are writing again, carefully, because you can feel that this is the true heart of the night, the thing the whole long evening has been quietly bending toward without your knowing it. The king wants to know a secret. He wants to know the plan of a certain sealed and hidden place, a chamber of the wise, a thing built and closed long ago by hands greater than any craftsman living. He does not say all of what it is, not fully, but you gather the shape of it from the way he speaks. It is a hidden thing, a made thing, a set of chambers whose measure and whose making have been lost, or kept, or closed away. And the king wants its secret, because he is building. He has always been building. The great tomb rises out on the plateau at Giza even now, growing course by course under the sun while the household sleeps, and the king wants for it the oldest and best knowledge there is, the plan of the wise ones who came before him, so that his own great house of eternity might be made as it ought to be made, sealed and safe and true. You have carried this king's words for years, and you did not know this want was in him. That is the strange part, sitting there in the low light. You have written down his orders about grain and stone and men. You have stood at his shoulder through the long, dull business of ruling, the taxes and the boundaries and the endless small quarrels of great households, and you thought you knew the whole shape of what was in his mind, because it was your work to know it. And all that time, under everything you set down, this one quiet hunger was running along beneath, unwritten, unspoken, waiting. It makes you wonder, a little, what runs beneath everyone, what each of the sleeping faces in the sleeping house is carrying, unsaid, down under the ordinary days. Even a king, you think. Even a king who can command anything he can name has some one thing he has never yet been able to command, and carries it in silence, and waits, sometimes for years, for the single night when he might at last set it down before someone who will understand. He has wanted this, you understand, for the whole span of the building. Under every ordinary day of his reign, under the counting of grain and the judging of quarrels and the giving of orders, this one want has run like a hidden stream. And he has come at it tonight, sideways, through a long evening of tales and a wax crocodile and a folded lake and a mended goose, and now at last, in the low light, with the one man he thinks might know, he asks it plainly. "Can you tell me," he says, "the secret of that hidden place? Can you give me its plan for my own great work, so that what I raise at Giza may hold the wisdom of the old ones inside it?" The old man listens. He listens the way he does everything, without hurry, his mild eyes on the king's face, his old hands folded quiet in his lap. He does not answer at once, and you find, watching him, that you cannot tell from his face what the answer will be, whether it will be another gentle no, like the one he gave over the prisoner, or whether the king has at last asked for a thing that even this old wonder-worker will grant. You wait, and the lamps sink a little lower, and one of them at the edge of the light gutters down at last to a small blue bead of flame and goes quietly out, and no one rises to tend it, and the pool of gold on the floor draws in that much closer. In the deep of a night like this, you can feel the house turning slowly toward morning, even from inside a windowless hall, the way you can feel the tide of sleep pulling at your own eyes. But no one sleeps. The king waits on the old man's answer, and the sons wait, and you wait with your reed lifted, and the old man takes his own long, unhurried time, and the whole warm island of light holds its breath around the single question that has waited years to be asked. When he speaks, it is neither. He does not refuse the king, but he does not simply hand the secret over either. He tells the king gently, in the low, even voice that has carried the whole hall through the night, that the thing he wants is real, and that it will indeed come to him. But it is not a thing, he says, that I myself can give you. It is not mine to hand across. The secret the king seeks is not held in the old man's own memory, not written on any sheet he could send for, not a thing he could speak aloud tonight and be done. It is coming, he says. It is on its way to you already, though you do not know it. But it will come by another road than this one, and by another hand than mine. The king does not grow angry at this. You watch for it the way you have learned to watch, and it does not come. A younger king, or a smaller one, might have heard in those words a evasion, a wise man's clever way of saying no without the danger of the word. But this king has been softened by the long night and the wonders in it, and he hears something else, something truer, and he sits with it. The lamps gutter and steady. The hall is a warm island of light in the black middle of the night. And the king waits, patient now in a way he was not patient at the start of the evening, patient the way a man is patient who has been told that the thing he has wanted for years is coming and needs only to hold still a little longer and hear how." And so the old man tells him. He tells it slowly, in the low, warm voice, and the whole hall stills to hear it, and you bend close over your tablet to catch every word, because you understand now that you are writing down not a tale of the old time, but a thing about the time to come, and there is no wax in the world you have ever pressed a reed into that felt as strange as this wax feels under your hand tonight. "The secret you seek," the old man says, "will be brought to you, but not by any hand that is now living, not by me, not by any of the wise men you might send for, not by any craftsman or priest or keeper of old plans anywhere in the land. The knowledge you want is not in the keeping of the living. It will be carried to you," he says, "by those who are not yet born." You write it down. Not yet born. The reed moves and the words go into the wax, and you hardly feel your own hand doing it. You sit with that a moment before you write the rest, and it is a strange thing to hold in the mind so late at night. All evening the tales have reached backward, into the old time, into the reigns of kings so long dead that only the wise remember their names. The wax crocodile, the folded lake, the marvels of the men of old, all of it behind you, all of it done and finished and safe. And now the old man has turned the whole night around and pointed it the other way, forward, into the dark that has not happened yet, and you find that the time to come is a stranger country even than the time long past. The past, at least, has been lived. It sits still and lets itself be told. But the thing the old man speaks of now is out ahead of everyone in the room, out past the edge of the lamplight, unmet, unmade, and he speaks of it as calmly as if it were a tale he had heard as a boy. "There are children coming," the old man says. 3 of them. 3 sons, who will be born one after another, one and then the next and then the last, into a plain house in a small town not far off. They are not born yet. Their mother goes about her days even now, in that town, in that house, not knowing what she carries or what will come of it, an ordinary woman keeping an ordinary home. But the day of their coming is already set. It is fixed, the old man says, as the rising of a star is fixed, as the coming of the flood is fixed, already written into the order of the world, though no eye can yet see it. And it is these 3, the 3 not yet born, who will carry to the throne the secret that the king now seeks. The king sits very still. You watch him, because watching him is your work and your habit, and you see him take the words in, and you see that he takes them without any anger at all. The old man has just told him, in his own hall, in the low of the night, that the thing he wants most will not come to him by his own hand or in his own doing, but will be brought instead by children who do not yet exist, in a time he must simply wait for. A harder king might have heard a threat in it, or an insult, or a riddle meant to make a fool of him. This king hears none of those things. He sits in the low gold light with his great head bowed a little, and his face is thoughtful and quiet. And there is on it the look of a man who is hearing the far edge of his own long story read aloud to him by someone who can see further down the road than he can. The old man speaks the town where the mother lives, and the plain house she keeps. And you write these things down too, carefully, the place and the kind of home, though you set no name here in this telling, because a name spoken over a thing not yet come feels almost too heavy to lift. He speaks it all without unkindness, without any weight of doom, the way you might tell a friend of a good thing waiting for them a little way off. There is no cruelty in the prophecy, and the king takes no wound from it. It is only the truth, laid out gently in the lamplight, that what one king builds another will inherit, that the secret of the old wise ones is coming into the world along a road of its own choosing, carried by hands not yet made, in a season not yet arrived, and that all a king can do about a thing so fixed and so far off is to hear it and nod and let it be. The old man says no more about it after that. He has told the thing he came, without knowing it, to tell, and it seems to cost him nothing to have told it, and he settles back among his cushions with the mild look of a man who has set down a small parcel he was carrying for someone else. The king does not press him for the names or the year or the how of it. Perhaps he understands that some things are better left as the old man has left them, out at the edge of the light, promised but not grasped. Perhaps he is simply full, the way you are full at the end of a long meal, past wanting any more. The hall is warm and low and quiet, and the last lamps lean their small steady flames toward the middle of the floor, and the night outside has begun, in the way you can feel more than see, to thin. And that, you think, bent over your tablet in the warm dark, is a strange and quiet kind of comfort. The king has spent his whole reign trying to hold time still, to build a thing so large and so true that it will stand past his own death and keep his name alive against the wearing of the years. And here, tonight, an old man, older than anyone should be, has told him plainly that time does not hold still, that it moves on past even the greatest of the living toward children who are not yet born, and that this is not a loss but the way of things, the way one dawn always gives its light over to the next. The king hears it. He does not fight it. He sits in the last of the lamplight and lets the far promise settle over him. You lower your reed and rest your cramped hand flat against the cool wax, and you let your eyes close for just a moment in the warm dark, and you listen. The house is quieter now than it has been all night, quiet in the deep, even way of a place whose people have finally begun to give up on staying awake. Somewhere off in the sleeping quarters, a child turns over and murmurs and settles again. A last lamb pops softly as it drinks the bottom of its oil. The old man breathes slow and easy in his cushions, already halfway into a sleep of his own, an old, old man who has said his one refusal and given his one prophecy and is troubled by neither. And the king sits above him with his great head bowed, awake still, but gently now, the wanting gone soft in him, a man who has heard the far edge of his own story and found it, against all expectation, a thing he can rest inside of. You look down at what you have written. The wax holds it now, the whole strange shape of it, the wonder and the refusal and the prophecy, the goose and the closed door and the three who are not yet born. Tomorrow or the day after, You will copy it clean onto good papyrus in your best careful hand, and it will be kept and put away, and it will outlast this night and this hall and this king, and you yourself by more years than the old man has lived. But that is tomorrow's work. Tonight there is only the low warm light, and the old man mild in his cushions, and the king quiet and thoughtful above him, and the whole great house breathing slow around you, and the long dark night bending now, at last, ever so gently, toward the first far thought of morning. The old man is not finished with the three. He has told the king that they are coming, and where, and that the day is set, and he might have stopped there and left it a bare fact hung in the dark. But he does not stop. His voice drops lower still, and it softens, and it takes on a slow, rocking gentleness, the way a voice does when it is talking a child down towards sleep, and you find, bending over your tablet, that you are leaning into it the way the whole hall is leaning into it, drawn by the sound as much as the sense. He is describing them now, the three not yet born. He is telling the king what they will be. They will be children marked from the first, he says. Not ordinary sons of an ordinary house, though the house is plain and the town is small, and their mother is a woman no one outside her own lane has ever heard the name of. They are marked all the same. There is a thing set on them already, before their first breath, before their mother even knows for certain that she carries them, a brightness laid over their coming that the eye of the God can see and no other eye can. They are born, the old man says, for the great seat. They are born for the double crown, the white and the red together, the crown of the two lands joined. One after another they will come into the world in that plain house, and one after another, each in his own season, they will rise, until the three of them in their turn have worn the thing that sits now on the head of the king who listens. You write it slowly. You write it more slowly than you have written anything all night, and not because your hand is tired, though it is, but because the words are heavy in a way words are not usually heavy. A line of kings, a whole dynasty, folded up small and sleeping inside a promise, inside a plain house in a small town, inside a woman going quietly about her mourning who does not yet know. You set each word into the wax with care, the way you would lay a sleeping infant into a basket, afraid to wake it. The king takes no wound from any of it. You keep watching for the wound, because you have served him long, and you know what it is to tell a king that his line will end and another will begin, and how badly a king can take it. But this king takes it the way a man takes the news that the season is turning, that the flood will come again as it always comes, that after his own long summer there will be, in its own time, another. There is no dread in the old man's telling, and the king catches none from it. He sits in the low gold light with his head bowed a little, and his great hands still on his knees. And his face, when you steal a look at it, is not the face of a man who has been robbed. It is the face of a man who is being shown, from a small high window, a country he will never walk in, and is glad, in a quiet and aching way, to have been shown it at all. For that is the thing the old man is truly saying under the soft words, and you understand it as you write. He is saying that the world does not end with this king. He is saying that after the mountain of stone out on the plateau is finished, and after the king who raised it has gone into it to rest, the two lands will not fall dark and empty. There will be another to hold them, and after that one, another. The great seat will not stand cold. It will pass gently from the holder to the held, from the season that is ending to the season that is only now, in a plain house beginning to be. A king who has spent his whole reign afraid of the dark that comes after a man, afraid enough to build against it in stone, is being told, kindly, in the deep of a single night, that the dark he fears is not empty, that it is only full of people he will never meet, carrying his world forward for him after he has laid it down. You think of the plain house as you write. You cannot help it. The old man has made it so real in his low voice that you can nearly see it, a small mud brick house in a small town off the river somewhere north of here, the walls giving back the day's heat into a cooling evening, a single lamp in a window, a woman moving in the lamplight, setting down a bowl, banking a fire, doing the last small things of the day before she lies down. She does not know. That is the wonder inside the wonder, the thing that catches at your chest there in the dark. She's going to sleep tonight in her plain house the way you will go to sleep in yours, tired and ordinary, thinking of tomorrow's bread and tomorrow's water, and inside her, or coming soon to her, is a whole line of kings. The greatest news the world will hold for 100 years is sleeping quietly under an ordinary roof, and the only two people awake to it tonight are an old man in a king's hall, and a king who cannot command it and would not dare. And you think, and the reed pauses over the wax. You are awake to it too. You are the third. Somebody had to be, or the promise would have gone into the dark unheard, the way most of the true things in the world go, said once in a quiet room and never written down and lost with the breath that said them. But you were here. You were set against this pillar with a tablet on your knees for no grander reason than that a king wanted a record of a long evening, and so the promise falls to you to catch, and you catch it, and it goes into the wax under your hand and stops being only a sound in the air. That is a strange and humble kind of luck, you think, to be the small third person in the corner of a great night, the one who holds the pen. The king will not remember, in the morning, half of what was said. The old man will carry it off inside himself and tell no one. But the wax remembers everything, and the wax is yours to keep, and so, in a way the king with all his stone could never manage, it is you who will hand this night forward. The old man goes gently on, and the hall stays hushed to hear him, and the picture he draws is not a picture of thrones and armies and the loud business of kings at all. It is a soft picture. It is almost a cradle song. He speaks of the three the way an old grandfather speaks of grandchildren he will not live to see, with a tenderness that has nothing sharp in it. No ambition, no politics, no weighing of who will rise and who will fall. Only the plain, warm fact of children coming into the world, marked for a great thing, in their own good time, one after another, the way the years come, the way the mornings come. And the great thing they are marked for, when he names it, is not conquest and not glory, but simply this: to hold in their turn the two lands, and to keep the order of them, and to pass them on again in their own old age to whoever comes after, and the way it has gone since the very first kings joined the red land and the black. It is the oldest comfort there is, you think, laying down your reed to rest your hand a moment in the warm dark. Older than the wonder of the goose, older, even, than the wisdom of the closed door. The comfort that nothing truly ends, that a life, even a great one, even the greatest, is a thing handed on and not a thing used up, and that the handing on is not a defeat but the whole quiet point of it. The way a lamp is not diminished by lighting another lamp from its own flame, but only makes the room brighter for the sharing. The king sits and hears it. He does not argue. He does not send at once for the plain house or the unborn sons or the woman who does not know. He lets the promise be a promise. And you, watching him let it, feel the last of the night's small tensions go slack and easy, the way a rope goes slack when the load it held is set safely down. You take up the reed again and write the last of it, the three not yet born, and the double crown they are coming into the world to wear, and as you press the words into the wax, you feel how strange and how gentle a thing it is to be copying, so late at night, in a sleeping house, a promise about people who will not draw breath for years yet. The wax holds it. Tomorrow it will go onto good clean papyrus and be kept, and the promise will keep with it, waiting in the dark of a sealed jar, the way the three themselves are waiting in the dark of the days to come. And over the whole hall, over the king and the old man and the drowsing sons and you against your pillar, the marvel of it settles slow and warm, like a cloth laid down over a birdcage at nightfall, to bring the small stir of the day at last to rest. There is nothing left to tell now, and the great house knows it before anyone says so. You feel the knowing move through the hall, the way you feel a change in the air before the wind actually turns. The wonder has been done, and the refusal has been made, and the prophecy has been given and taken, and the long evening, which climbed and climbed through its tales toward these last quiet words, has reached its top and tipped over, and is coming down now, gently, the far slope of it, toward sleep. No one announces it. No one needs to. The old man has said the thing he came without knowing to say, and he settles deeper into his cushions with the loose ease of a man whose work is finished, and the settling of him is a kind of permission, and one by one, softly, the household begins at last to let the night have them. The king stirs first. He lifts his great head, and he thanks the old man. You cannot hear all of the words from your place against a pillar, but you can see the shape of the thanking, the slow, grave courtesy of it, a king bowing his own head a little to a stranger who came up the dark river and gave him a marvel and a wisdom and a promise and asked for nothing back. He gives orders in a low voice, and they are all gentle orders, the last soft business of a host seeing to a guest. The old man is to have a good place to sleep, and every comfort in it, and food, and quiet, and whatever an old man might want in the deep of a night far from his own bed. Hands come out of the dimness at the edges of the hall to see it done, and the old man is helped up from his low seat, slow and careful on his ancient legs, and led away toward rest, and he goes without a backward look, mild and empty of any burden, as though he has forgotten already the weight of the things he carried in. The suns go next. They rise from around the low light where they have sat the whole evening long, and they are heavy-eyed now, the tale-telling done, the excitement of the goose and the strangeness of the prophecy worn down at last into plain tiredness. They drift toward their own rooms in ones and twos, murmuring the soft short good nights of people too far gone toward sleep for real talk. The hall empties by slow degrees. The warm island of lamplight that held them all night loses them one at a time to the dark at its edges, and the dark takes them kindly, and the murmur of the house thins and thins until there is almost no sound in it at all, but the small settling ticks of a great building letting go of its heat, and the whisper of the last lamps, and somewhere far off the single soft cough of a servant lying down at a doorway to sleep across the threshold. You know these sounds. You have heard the great house go to sleep around you 1,000 nights, and there is a comfort in the sameness of it, in the way a place this large lets go of a day always in the same slow order. First the voices, then the footsteps, then the small clinks of the last things being set down and put away, and then, one by one, the lamps, until only a few are left leaning their light toward the middle of a room. It is the same tonight as it is every night, wonder or no wonder, prophecy or no prophecy. The old man's marvels have not changed the plain shape of the house settling down. The goose was made whole, and the 3 unborn were named, and the closed door was left closed, and still the servant coughs and turns over at his threshold the way he does every night, and still the beams tick as they cool, and still the dark gathers in the high corners where the lamplight cannot reach. There is a mercy in that too, you think. The great things happen, and then the ordinary night closes over them gently and holds them and carries everyone down into sleep just the same. The king does not go at once. You watch him because it is still your habit and still a little while longer your work, and you see that he wants a moment more with the night before he gives it up. He sits alone now by the last of the light, his household gone from around him, and he is quiet in a way you have never seen him quiet in all your years against this pillar. Not the restless quiet of the start of the evening, the quiet of a bored man with a long night in front of him and nothing to fill it. This is a full quiet, a settled one. The quiet of a man who wanted something for years and has, tonight, in a way he did not expect and cannot fully hold, been given it, and is sitting with the strange, soft weight of having been answered. You rise then, stiff from the long sitting, your tablet heavy and warm in your 2 hands, and you carry it toward the tall doorway to check the night before you too are let go to sleep. And when you come to the threshold and look out, you stop, because the night has changed while you were bent over your wax and did not see. Out on the plateau, the enormous pale shape of the pyramid still stands against the sky, but the sky behind it is no longer the deep plum black it was when the evening began. It has gone along its eastern edge the faintest, thinnest gray, a gray so soft you might have thought you were imagining it if you did not know the look of it so well. The stars low in the east have begun to lose their sharpness. The dark is not broken, not nearly, but it is no longer whole. Somewhere below the rim of the desert, the morning has started, very quietly, to come. The great tomb stands black against that first far grayness, and you look at it a long moment from the doorway, the stone that the king is raising course upon course against the wearing of the years. It will still be standing, you think, when this night is a thing so long past that no one alive remembers it was ever lived. It was raised by the will of the king who sits behind you now in the last of his lamplight, and before him by the will of his own father Sneferu, who built in stone the way other men build in reeds, and by the will of the whole line of the fourth dynasty, the kings of Giza, one after another leaving their mountains along the western edge of the river for the sun to find each morning. The pyramid does not care that it is nearly dawn. It does not care that a wonder was worked tonight, or a prophecy given, or that 3 kings are sleeping unborn in a plain house to the north. It only stands, patient as the desert it stands on, waiting for the light that is coming to it now, the way the light comes to it every morning, and will keep coming long after all of them, the king and the old man and the scribe at the door, have gone into their own dark to rest. You turn back into the hall. The last lamps are guttering low, their oil almost drunk, and the king is a still shape at the middle of them, and the whole vast house around you both breathes slow and deep and even, asleep at last from its roof to its floor. There is a great peace in it. The night that started restless has come, hour by hour and tale by tale, all the way down into stillness. And you can feel the stillness in your own body, in the heaviness of your arms, and the slow blink of your own tired eyes. You find a place to set the tablet safe, where the morning will not lose it, and you lower yourself down against your cool pillar one last time, and you let your head rest back against the stone, and you feel the whole long night lying finished behind you, and only the small soft business of sleeping left ahead. The gray comes up over the desert while you sit there with your eyes half closed, and you watch it come the way you have watched everything else tonight, without hurrying it, letting it arrive. It comes first as a thinning, then as a paleness, then, all at once and yet somehow gently too, as light. The eastern edge of the sky goes from gray to the palest cool gold, and the gold spills slowly down out of the sky and lays itself along the great eastern face of the pyramid, and you watch the stone change under it. All night the tomb has stood black, a flat dark shape cut out of a dark sky. Now the light finds its highest courses and touches them, and the black lifts, and the true color of the stone comes up out of the dark, a soft warm gold at the top where the sun has reached it, and a cool blue shadow still below, and the great shape that was only a blackness against the stars becomes, as you watch, a mountain again, real and lit and standing in the morning of the world. The king rises. He has sat with his full quiet as long as a man can sit with it, and now the light is coming and it is time, and he gets up slowly from his place by the dead and dying lamps, a big tired man at the end of a long night, and he goes at last to take the rest he would not take all through the dark. He does not look back at the empty hall. There is nothing in it now to look back at. The tales are told, and the guest is sleeping, and the wonder is done, and the king goes to lie down as the sun that he could not command comes up all the same over the tomb that he could, and the great house, which held its breath so long tonight, lets the last of it go and sleeps. You sit a while in the growing light and watch the color come back into the world. It comes slowly, the way it always comes, first to the high stone out on the plateau and then, by soft degrees, down into the hall itself, so that the pillars you could not see the tops of all night are there again, rising up into a paling gray, and the long floor where the goose walked its slow circle is a floor once more, and not a pool of lamplight in a sea of dark. The lamps are nothing now, small dying things, their light swallowed whole by the plain gray morning that needs no oil and asks for no trimming, and comes to rich and poor, and king and scribe exactly alike. You feel your own tiredness settle over you, soft and heavy, the good tiredness of a night well kept, and you know that in a moment you will let your eyes close and not fight them. But not quite yet. For a moment more, you only sit and breathe and watch the light come up, and let the whole long night stand finished and quiet behind you like a door drawn gently shut on a sleeping room. And the story of this one long night is finished. It closes the way a night closes, softly, without anyone marking the exact moment of it, the dark simply giving over to the light and the waking giving over to the sleep. Tomorrow, or the day after, when your own rest is done and your hand is steady again, you will take the wax you filled tonight, and you will copy it out clean onto a good sheet of papyrus in your best and most careful hand, the whole strange shape of the evening set down in the neat black rows of a practiced scribe. The wax crocodile and the folded lake, the old man come up the dark river, the goose taken apart and made whole, the one closed door he would not open, and the three not yet born coming in their own good season into a plain house in a small town marked for the double crown. You will write it all clean and give it its proper ending, and set it aside among the other kept things, one more sheet in a jar in a dark, dry room, and you will think, most likely, that that is the end of it. It is not the end of it. That is the last and quietest wonder of the night, and it is one you cannot know as you sit there in the new light, though you can almost feel the edge of it, the way you can feel a thing coming that you have no name for yet. The clean copy you will make will outlast you. It will outlast the king, and the pyramid he is raising will stand over the king's own bones while the sheet of papyrus lies waiting in its dark. It will outlast the fourth dynasty, and the three not yet born who will rise after it, and their sons, and their sons. It will lie folded in the dark for a length of time you have no numbers large enough to hold, longer than the whole span of years that has passed from the first kings down to this morning, and then longer than that again. And at the far end of all that waiting, in a world you could not begin to dream, a hand not yet made will lift it out into the light once more, and unfold it, and read, and there in the neat black rows will be this very night, the king and the old man and the goose and the promise carried down whole across the dark, the way the goose itself was carried across its own small parting and made one again. The oldest tales anyone thought to keep. Waiting all that time, patient as the stone on the plateau, for a voice to read them once more into the quiet. But that is far off. farther off than the 3 not yet born, farther off than anything the old man saw. It is not for tonight. Tonight there is only the light coming up gold over Giza, and the great house sleeping, and the pyramid going from black to soft gold on its eastern face, while the shadow holds cool and blue below, and you against your pillar, with your eyes gone heavy, and your night's work done and safe beside you. So let the light come up now over your own room, the way it is coming up over Giza. There is nothing left in this night that needs you. The tale is told, and the wax is filled, and the king is gone to his rest, and the old man is sleeping mild in his cushions, with his one refusal and his one prophecy behind him, troubled by neither. The dark is thinning at the edges of your own walls, the way it is thinning over the desert, and you do not have to watch it come. You have carried the whole long night all the way down to its morning, faithfully, word by word, and the carrying is finished now, and you may set it down. Let your hand go loose. Let the tablet rest. Let the last small weight of the day you brought in with you so many hours ago stay where you laid it on the floor beside you, and let it keep until you wake. There is nothing to do now but rest. The night is over. The story is safe. And the morning, patient and certain and already touching the top of the great stone out on the plateau, is on its way to you too, and will find you gently, and there is all the time in the world before it comes.